Thank you, Mike. You know, I made that queen of reinvention as just a little side joke, but somehow it got out there, so now you know. I have a question. I also have a question for you this morning. If you could think back to how many times in your life that you have thought about changing up your career. And then think about how many times you decided to just sigh and put that idea away, lock it up in a mental file folder and say, to be looked at sometime in the distant future. I know, I understand that. You know, it's overwhelming to think about changing your career or analyzing that, and it's just so much soul searching that you have to do that you just don't do it. But truly, if you are in a career dead zone, which is part of the title of the topic, what would you do? What should you do? Now me, I would advocate that you just break out, find the authentic and unique you, and move ahead. Well, that's all very easily said and done, but that is exactly what you should do. But why would you not do it? Why? Because maybe you're afraid. But what are you afraid of? Well, you could be afraid of losing your job. That's always a constant fear. And then not knowing exactly what to do, maybe something else that you're good at that you could do, not knowing that. Or maybe you could be afraid of not being able to succeed at what you're good at. You took it, you broke out, you took a step, and then you just couldn't do it. You couldn't make the money that you needed doing what you love. That's a very, very common issue today. I'd like to tell you a quick story about a good friend of mine. Her name is Joanne, and you would know Joanne because she's very short and stocky, and she's got red hair that kind of sparks out just like her personality. Joanne is 60, and she's had a long career in finance and business process consulting, working for KPMG. When she cut her teeth working in the oil and gas industry in Alaska and Texas. And she had a very successful career. But about 5 years ago, she thought about, she was just bored. She was tired of what she was doing, so she started looking. And she got this fabulous job offer in Anchorage, a big job, to be director of finance for a large native corporation in Alaska. So she did. She packed up from Portland and she left and she moved to Alaska. Almost exactly 1 year later, she lost her job. She was let go, and she absolutely really wasn't told why. Yeah, she got unemployment, but it was a shock to her. And so what she did, she picked up again and came back to Portland, bought a condo, and just renovated the heck out of it, put a lot of money in it. And she was trying to get a job, but guess what it was? It was our big recession, and she couldn't get work, employment. So what did she do? She was forced to do contract work, project work, working with some of the agencies. And also, unfortunately, she had to get out from under that mortgage for that place she renovated. And so she had to sell her place. And she worked for about 2 more years, and then it came over her again. It's like, oh, I just don't like this work anymore. I just really want to change. So she thought about it and thought about it. And then, of course, she's got me kind of talking in her ear, me who's all about career change. And right then there was a program, and it still exists, where she could be on unemployment and she could also go back to school. And she decided to do what she loved. Remember, she renovated that place. She loves interior design and interior architecture. And so she went back to school, and that's what she's doing now. She's getting a degree in that. And I so love it that she didn't give in to just doing, the same old thing for the rest of her life. So, and she called me the other day and said to really, again, thank me for helping her find something meaningful and fulfilling. So that's my friend Joanne, but why is this talk important? Why would you be wanting to listen to a story about Joanne? I mean, you're successful people in your career, right? You're meeting planners, meeting professionals. You should hear about this because, well, don't we all know? Jobs, you can lose a job. You can leave a career. And remember what happened after 9/11 in this industry. If a lot of you were there then, it was down. And in this recession also, it could be down. These things happen. Jobs go away. And you need to be prepared. So I think about something else that's happening. We're living on average 20 years, 15 to 20 years longer than our parents or our grandparents. And we want to have a meaningful life in those extra bonus years that we're getting. We want to do something meaningful, and also, frankly, unlike our parents, we now have a chance, if we can, to do something that we really, truly enjoy and love and apply our passion to it. So it's PPP, passion, purpose, and paycheck. That's what we want in our lives. Now, in a few minutes, I'm going to give you 3 important tips about breaking out and moving on. But first, you have to hear my story, okay? You have to hear Laura's story. And it's an interesting one because that's how I got to be the reinvention queen. You spoiled my, no, that's okay. So, for me, imagine it's 2001, it's the dot bomb. I was in high-tech sales. I was laid off for the first time in my life. I had been living in Miami for 25 years, not from there. And so I was laid off and, freshly divorced as well. And I thought about, should I go back to what was my lifelong passion for some reason, and my major in college, and that was Asian studies. I just loved all things Asian. And I majored in Japanese studies. And I thought about that. Should I try that now that, the marriage is gone, the job's gone? And I said, wait a minute. I'm in Miami. I'm talking things Asian. ¿Por qué no comprende Miami and things Asian? It just didn't. If you've ever been to Miami or in the airport, it just doesn't work. So what I did is I worked with a career counselor, and she was remote, and we were on the phone, and about at the second phone call, she said, Laura, have you ever thought about moving out of Miami? I was like, oh God. Yes, absolutely. It was like she blew the doors off my mind. And fresh air was rushing in, and I said, yes, I never wanted to be here. I was a gal of the 70s in those days. You tended more so to follow your hubby around for their career. So what I did, I was so excited, and brochures and maps and websites looking at the specific type of city that I wanted to live in. And I found perfect Portland that way. And I moved here in January 2002, and I didn't know anybody. But Cleanne, I want you to know, I networked like crazy in 2002. Before that was like the trendy word, And I really networked in the Asian community, particularly the Japanese and the Chinese community in the city. And it helped me to get grounded, and I did start a couple of businesses. Not all at once, but I started them, and they did have an Asian aspect to them, but they didn't really totally float my boat. So now here comes 2009. I become of a certain age, which we won't discuss. And again, I said, is this all there is? There's still one more career in me. I know it. It's there waiting to break out and move ahead. It really is. So again, I met with a career counselor. Of course, this time I'm in Portland. And we weren't at work on it too long before we agreed, Laura, you'd be great in helping other people with their careers. Why? Because I am the reinvention queen. And I keep doing this in my life, and it was the Great Recession again, and there were all these people in midlife, like myself, who I had been volunteering helping, that needed jobs, and they needed guidance. And so I started a business, where I do that. And I really love it. I think I do have a talent for it, and when you're the reinvention queen, you will have a talent for that. So here's my first powerful point for you. The power of re, like if I had something on the screen, it would be capital R, capital E. Reclaim, reboot, or press the redo button, the record button, and start over. That's always an option if you're looking to change. And it may be a scary option, as we talked about, but that's always an option. And, career management is great. And I get that, but it is a lot easier if you're in your job. But if you've lost your job, like after 9/11, it's hard, and you need something more, and you need a plan. You need, beyond career management, at that point in time, you need life management. Really, truly you do. And one thing you can do is to keep learning, keep being flexible. Because that's what employers are concerned about with somebody who's a little older. I think they may not be flexible. They may be very opinionated. They aren't now keeping up with technology. They look a little dowdy or something. They don't look like they have energy. So that's part of your re. That's part of your re. Now, here's the second powerful tip. It's learn about the Encore Career movement. I call it a movement. Raise your hand if you've heard of Encore Careers. I think we have a lot of younger people in the audience. Okay. So an Encore Career is something that's very defined. And I'll tell you briefly what it is, who looks for it, and where you can find it, and what you can do with it, very succinctly. So it's for people who are looking for something with personal meaning. They want continued income. It would have a social impact. So who would be looking for that kind of thing? Who's your poster child for that? Well, that would be somebody who is perhaps thinking, is that all there is? Is this all there is in my life? Or it could be somebody who's had a personal life issue that caused them to take a break in their career. Or I've counseled several mothers who, they pressed the pause button on their career when they had children, and maybe they even took 10 or 15 years off. They try to get back in, and it's totally different. They totally have to start over, and they don't know. So that's a good place for someone to start with an Encore Career. So where can you find those kind of jobs? Getting down to it, if you get to that point and that's what you're doing in your life. I'll list 5 areas where you can have that. You can find it in healthcare, in education, in government, in the environmental, the green jobs, and you can also find it in nonprofit world. And every city's different. They got a different mix, whether that's easy in that city or not. But there are 9 million people who've been surveyed and said, we're already in our Encore Career, and they're in those kind of fields. And what the great thing about it is you can be more flexible. As people get older, it's like, I don't want to work 12 hours a day. I want to go do my Tai Chi sometime or whatever, my Zumba. I want to have time for that. And I want to be flexible with my time. And maybe I've got kids. So now, here's the really interesting, the third powerful tip. And this relates, we've had this theme about children coming up kind of throughout. Remember when you were a kid and used to play pretend? Like with your charitable event here, you saw the little outfits and clothes. You wanted to be a pirate or a princess or a cop or a nurse or something like that. You wanted to be that, and you had such joy when you were playing at that, as opposed to being in the real job where it's just kind of a challenge. And we forget who we are. I think it was Steve that mentioned, we tend to think of, we define ourselves as, it's not who I am, it's what I do is who I am. And I bet if I asked somebody in the audience here today to say, answer the question, who are you? What would you say? Would you say something like meeting planner, meeting professional, hotel event manager, as opposed to who you really are? So what we're going to do, because the truth is we're larger than our labels, so I could talk about what I did in my past. But now I'm not going to ask you to stand up, but I too have an exercise. Turn to a person next to you, and this is easy. Turn to the person next to you, we're going to spend 5 minutes doing this, and ask them, what is it you always wanted to do when you were a kid? When you were a kid, what did you always want to do when you grew up? Express it that way. And now the other person is just going to do this. They're going to listen to that, and I want the other person to give you a couple of ideas how you could bring that back in your life today. So, for example, I love being a dancer. Yeah, I love being a dancer. But how can I make money at that? So the other person says, well, you could be a judge at competitions, or you could have a studio. So 5 minutes, as much as you can get done in that time, ask. Oh. I just want to hear hear the conversation.
Oh, as a child for me, I used to lay in bed and cry because I never knew what I wanted to be. Because my brother was like, I'm going to be an architect. Done. And I was like, I don't know what I want to be. I don't. An architect? No, he's a general contractor, but close enough. But yeah, I never really knew what I wanted to be.
You didn't know?
No, I never really had like I want to do this or I want to do that. Like I wanted to be a mom and have babies and like have a family.
Did either of you have something in mind?
Yeah, CPA.
CPA? And now you're doing this?
Yeah, I'm not good at that. In high school I took that class and then discovered that I would never.
And you wouldn't go back to it? No, okay. Okay, that's a different situation. And sometimes people are in their careers and they go like, God, I always wanted to do whatever, and I couldn't get back to it. Thank you. How am I doing on time? Okay, go.
Can you cut it in about a minute?
Yes. Cut this?
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
And then you've got about
Don't need much.
about 2 more minutes, then we'll do Q&A.
Yep, we're there.
Okay?
Yep.
That's good. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, now we're back. We're back. How did that feel to you, thinking about maybe reclaiming what you had been in the past? You didn't do it. I spoke with somebody here, and she didn't want to reclaim. She didn't want to reclaim. But it's possible. And if you're thinking that you might want to, simply because it was so meaningful to you then and you want to bring it back, just keep your antenna up. Always keep out there. It's kind of like networking. Just keep your antenna up. And as a matter of fact, networking is a great idea if you're doing your current career, but networking is so important. And you could go try out things. You don't have to just cut it. In an Encore career, people take time to do that because it takes time and money to gradually move to that. Well, guess what? I have one more tip. It's a bonus tip for you. And I'm going to read this because it's something that is a very powerful mantra to me, the lyrics to this song. The song is, I Hope You Dance. It was made popular by Leanne Womack, if you've ever heard of it. And as I was getting ready to leave Miami, I heard this song at a retreat I was at, and it struck me so powerfully, and it continued with me as I moved. And when I got to Portland, I would hear it in Safeway and the Muzak, and on the radio in the car. It was everywhere. And I'm going to read it for you, and I hope that the message will resonate. May you never take one single breath for granted. God forbid love ever leave you empty-handed. Whenever one door closes, I hope another door opens. And I hope you never fear those mountains in the distance. Never settle for the path of least resistance. When you come close to selling out, reconsider. And promise me you'll give faith a fighting chance. Because when you get the choice to sit it out or dance, I hope you dance. Why? Because time is a wheel in constant motion, always rolling along. Tell me who wants to look back on their years and wonder where all their years have gone. Thank you.